The grid is indicated by little red dots. On high DPI displays, the single pixel points are not easily visible, so it's possible to change them to small crosses using the config node called Cross Grid. The grid-specific part of this video will use Cross Grid 2. The crosshair snaps to grid points. The main use of this is to make sure drawing objects are spaced evenly. The pitch of the grid, called grid size, can be changed from the View menu. There are a selection of predefined, commonly used values. The easiest approach is to select one from that list. There are menu items and hotkeys to quickly step through this list in both directions while editing. The cursor position is displayed on the top right corner of the main window. This coordinate readout doesn't have to have the same units as the grid. It is also possible to use a custom grid size, specified by a number and a unit. With a coarse grid, it is very unlikely that the endpoint of a thin line falls onto a grid point. To ease connecting to the line or grabbing its endpoint for moving it around, PCB-RND will snap the crosshair onto the line endpoints that fall in between grid points. This happens if the mouse cursor is closer to the line endpoint than to any adjacent grid point. Arc endpoints, polygon as drawn corners, and path stack origins are also snapped to. Line middle sections between grid points are also snapped to make it easier to select the line or start a new connected line from the middle. In wireframe drawing mode, objects are not rendered solid, but only their outlines are drawn. In thin draw mode, only the centre lines of objects are drawn. These two modes have uses when inspecting complex drawings. For example, this board features a few custom mask openings drawn as negative objects on the mask layer. As negative objects, they are invisible. Only the side effect of removing mask is visible. In some cases, this can get quite confusing. For example, the rectangular opening is drawn as two separate overlapping rectangular polygons. When the crosshair is in the overlapping area, the corner points of both polygons are highlighted, making it look as if it was the centre point of the top left polygon that got highlighted. Activating the wireframe draw mode, it's immediately clear that these are just two rectangular polygons with an overlapping section. Plus the inner endpoint of the line that is extending into the larger polygon is also made visible, which is useful if it needs to be grabbed for editing. Selecting such negative objects is also confusing in solid view because the selection colour cannot be applied on anything. In wireframe mode, the selection colour can be applied on the contour, making it clear which object is selected. Another use case is finding small objects hiding under bigger objects. For example, there's a short copper line segment under the top left pad of U1 that is completely invisible without wireframe. Another such invisible feature is the longer copper line under the third pad. This section of outline drawing looks correct in solid rendering, but if wireframe rendering is turned on, it shows that in the left side corner, the two lines are not perfectly joined. It is possible to enable both thin draw and wireframe mode, which makes the broken corner even easier to detect. Finally, in situations with large polygons on multiple layers, it is not always easy to see thin trace objects as polygons are drawn over them. Enabling global wireframe would make traces less visible too, so there is a selective version that draws only polygons in wireframe and everything else in solid. Another approach is layer-based instead of object type-based. Each layer can be set to render in thin draw or wireframe mode. When neither is set, the layer is rendered normally.